I welcome you all in this our income tax session. I am CA Ankit Sharma, your income tax faculty for today's session. Today we will be discussing chapter number 8, that is return filing procedure and self-assessment. So I believe that you all must be doing very hard work for your examination that's going to be held in September. And we have June, July, of course, August, and almost 3 months you have to prepare for your examination. So please buckle up your seats, belts, and please work very hard in a systematic way. In a planning, make your strategies, of course, complete your courses and start your revision also. So today in this chapter, first of all, we should understand what exactly this chapter is going to teach us. Like the other income tax chapter, every chapter has something to make you understand about some income tax provision. Like income under the head salary, that chapter explain that if you receive anything from your employer in an employer-employee relationship, then what is going to be the treatment under income under the head salary? Whether it's basic chapter, whether it's residential status chapter, whether it's income from house property, which describe that if you have a building, then what is the taxability under Income Tax Act regarding the annual income, if any, generated from that building. In multiple cases was there. We have discussed those chapter also. Then PGBP discuss about the any income, gain, etc. from a business or profession. Then we have capital gain, which talks about transfer of a capital asset and the chargeability, whatever have been going to be after that transfer. Then we have income from other sources, which says that if there is any income which does not include in any other head of income, then that is going to be chargeable to tax under income from other source. Then we have deduction part, TDS, TCS, etc., etc. Why I am discussing those previous chapter before starting this chapter? Because this chapter technically gather all the information from all the previous chapter. What exactly we are doing under chapter number 8? We are going to submit our information to the income tax department in a specified format, in a specified form, in a at a specified time, etc. So this chapter technically take all the information regarding the all previous chapter, that what is your residential status, what are the tax rates applicable upon you, what is your person status, what is your income under different heads of income, how did you compute that income, what are the deduction, what are the clubbing, what is the set off you are going to be do in this year, what are the taxes needs to be applicable, the self assessment tax. That means you have to calculate your income, you have to calculate your taxes, you have to decide your expenses, etc. So income tax department is not going to bother you. In this previous year, like 23-24, whatever income you have earned, by whatever mode, by whatever after claiming the expenditure or expenses, you have to submit the information yourself. Income tax is not going to come to your office or your house and not going to ask about the previous year information. First of all, income tax department is giving you an opportunity to please explain your previous year income to us in a specified format, a specified form, specified dates, a specified procedure. You have to submit those information that we call income tax return, or via tax audit reports or other reports or certificate, what we are going to discuss one by one. So this is called declaration of liability also. So income tax says you have to declare your liability. You can say these are the first stage of income tax, that you have to declare your liability yourself. And that declaration of liability technically consists all chapters from chapter 1 till chapter 7, whatever we have discussed in these classes. So chapter 8 does not have anything new in a numerical topic. It is just going to include all the information, and this chapter is going to explain you that how, when, why we need to submit these information to the income tax department. Understood what we are going to discuss in this chapter? One more important thing. It is not mandatory that all assessees should submit their information to the income tax department. So if you fall under these mandatory provisions to filing your income tax return, etc., then you have to submit these information in a specific format, a specific form at a specific date. What are the consequences if you are not going to submit these information? What are the due dates of submit of information? What are the last date of submit these information, etc.? These will be discussed in this chapter number 8. So if you fulfill certain condition, only in that situation you have to submit your information in a specific manner. So chapter 8 that talks about the income tax return filing and self-assessment, that in a single word we can say that talks about the declaration of liability by the assessee. Once you declare your liability, once you submit your form, once you submit your information regarding your income, expenses and tax by yourself, after that submission, income tax department assess that information. You can say income tax department verify that information by scientific logic or with the help of system or software or by themselves. That's called assessment of liability. The second stage. First stage was declaration of liability, in which assessee declare his income and tax, etc. And the second stage is assessment of liability. In that situation, the information you have submitted to the department is going to be assessed by the department in multiple ways. The transaction you have undertaken, etc., etc., etc. And after the result will come, that will recovery of tax, whether you need to pay something, whether some refund is due, etc. So we are going to discuss first topic, that is declaration of liability, in which we are going to discuss the returns filing procedure, the self-assessment, the PAN number requirement also in this chapter has been included, that when a person need to obtain a PAN number, those transactions in which that PAN number needs to be submitted to the income tax department or any other place. So these are the provisions which we will be discussing in this chapter. The detailed chapter we have already discussed in our normal class. We have almost 18 or 19 MCQ also I have prepared for you. So you will have a detailed knowledge about the question that can be framed out of this chapter. As I always says, every chapter is very important. Do not think that that's a theoretical chapter, so it will be less important in comparison to other. Please don't do this. Don't underestimate the power of theoretical chapter also. So in this chapter, direct question can be framed that you need to explain certain provision regarding return filing topic, or they can also frame some MCQ or a case kind of question, that suppose in this situation, do the assessee needs to file return, what is the last date, etc. So anything can be asked from any topic of our study material. So please focus on that. So now let's start, because we have certain MCQ also. So I'm going to discuss some important topic from this chapter, and then we will move on to our MCQ, etc. Because examination is coming after 3 months. So I believe that you must have complete, in my opinion, there are certain things you have, the certain tips you should follow for your examination purpose. And these tips are technically those things which I have done before my examination. So these are practical things. First of all, you have to complete your course as soon as possible now. In my opinion, you have to complete your course at least at the end of this month, like June end. You have to complete your course anyhow. Fine. So we will discuss those tips during this lecture also. So first tip for all of you is this: please try to complete your chapters, your syllabus by the end of this month. The syllabus, including the numerical, etc. That is very, very important. That is first tip which I'm giving you for the examination purpose. Now a chapter that says provision for filing return of income. So as I have discussed in the starting of this chapter, in this chapter, we have to submit our information to the income tax department. That's called declaration of liability. In a more technical language, we say that is provision for filing return of income. And return of income comprise everything. It consists everything. It includes everything from the your residential status, from the definition of person in which you fall, till your deduction, TDS, TCS, gross total income, etc. Fine. So those all numerical things have to be summarized and need to submit in a specific way. That is called return of income. And self-assessment denotes that you have to assess those income and the tax, whatever liability you think that is correct, you have to submit it by yourself. Yourself means the assessee is going to submit either himself or with the help of a chartered accountant or tax consultant, etc. But whatever you will submit, that will be considered by the department as submitted by the assessee. Clear? So income tax return is a multiple task. You have to check multiple things before filing your income tax return, and that is a very important thing. It's a very important document. If you are doing some mistake in this submission of information, the consequence may be penalty, and that could be interest, and that could be really harmful for you. Fine. So the chapter overview talks about the filing of return. So in case of filing of return, the first section talks about compulsory filing of return. So if you fulfill under section 139(1) compulsory filing of return of income conditions, so those assessee who are going to fulfill compulsory filing of return, or those included in this topic, they have to file their return of income for that previous year or assessment year. But if you do not fall under this compulsory requirement condition, that does not mean that you cannot file your return of income. Still, you can file your return of income. Clear? Then we will discuss return of loss. So as the income is the positive sign of your earning, the negative sign of your earning will be called loss. So you need to file return of loss, and the section 139(3) explain about it. So if you might be thinking, what is the need to file return of loss? Because I do not need to pay any tax. So that is for your benefit. If you file your return of loss, only in that situation, you are able to carry forward of your losses which you have suffered during the previous year. So if you are not going to file return of loss, you won't be able to carry forward your losses. In case of return of loss, there are certain head of income. If in those head of income you suffered a loss, then you have to file your return of loss up to a due date of filing of return of income. Only income under that house property has the privilege that even if you have loss in that income under that house property, and if you file that return of income after due date, still you can carry forward the loss under that income from house property. Except house property, you cannot carry forward losses of any head of income if you file that income after due date of ROI. What is the due date? What is the provision? That we will discuss in short also. Then we have belated return. So if you are not able to file your return on due date, you can still file it, but that will be called a belated return. If there is any mistake or omission has been done in filing of normal return or belated return, you can still revise it. That is called revised return under section 139(5). Okay. So we are going to discuss these returns one by one, and then the thing is updated return also. So we have 2 more years to update our return, but there are certain specific condition restriction. Only after fulfilling that you are able to file an updated return. So that is different from belated return. Revised return, that is a separate concept of updated return. So we can see that we have this return that is technically due date. If you file your return One is the due date return filing. Under section 139, it will be explained those person needs to file the return of income and what is the due date. So if you are going to file your return as per section 139 one date, that will be called due date filing of return. Clear? Belated, that means after due date, but before the last date or up to the last date. So after due date and up to the last date, if you file any return of income, that will be called belated return. Clear? Revised return means if you have any mistake, etc. That means you have already filed either the due date return or the belated return. If any of these return has been filed, and if there is any mistake, omission, etc., then you can revise it, and that will be called revised return. And we have a separate provision for updated return. You can file that return also up till 2 years from the end of the assessment year. So if our assessment year is 24-25, then we can file it up to 2 years from the end of the assessment year. Clear? So these are the provision we are going to discuss one by one. Then we have interest for default in furnishing return of income under section 234A. We have some kind of penalty, or we can call it a fees for default in furnishing return of income, that is section 234F. These are the provision regarding PAN number submission. Like those person needs to obtain PAN number, the list of those person. In certain cases, you can also quote your Aadhaar number. There are certain transactions in which you have to submit your PAN number. There is a provisions of TRP, that is tax return preparers. If you want to file your return with the help of TRP, you can go to the TRP and they can file your return on your behalf. So what are those provisions? We have discussed already those provisions in detail in the detailed lecture, but today we will just take up the important topics. So why we are doing this? Because before starting the MCQ, I just wanted to revise those provisions so you are able to solve those MCQ, because we are going to have an interactive section during our MCQ topic. I will give you MCQ question, and those students who want to answer, they can tell me the answer of that question, or we can discuss about the solution of that question also. So definitely I assure you, after the MCQ section, you will able to understand this chapter more easily, and you will find that what kind of question can be framed from this chapter also, because it is not a numerical chapter. So student might think that just read it out. No, don't read it out this chapter, understand this chapter, because in my opinion, question definitely going to be framed from this chapter also. So return of income, the meaning what we have discussed, that is a kind of an information about your income and the tax, whatever you had, you need to pay to the income tax department. So you can see in short, a return of income is a declaration of income and the resultant tax by the assessee in the prescribed form. So as I have said, that is technically in short, declaration of liability by the assessee. Okay. Is filing of income tax return mandatory? Yes, in some cases it is mandatory, and that is compulsory filing of return of income, section 139. So point 1 says all companies, we are going to discuss these topics in shorts because we have already discussed in detail. Companies and firm need to file their return every year, whether you have income or loss. Other than a company or firm, filing of return of income on or before of due date. So do not bother about the due date. We will discuss what is the due date. So other than company or a firm, you have to file your return of income only if your income exceed the basic exemption limit. Now we have section 115 BAC, that means default tax regime, and we have our optional tax regime also. So in those optional or default tax regime, there is a basic exemption limit. Like in case of 115 BAC, we have 3 lakh rupees. And in normal, we have 2.5 lakh, 5 lakh or 3 lakh rupees basic exemption limit depending upon the assessee. So if you are a company or a partnership firm, as per point number 1, you have to file your return of income or loss, whatever it is. Other than a company or firm, you need to file your return only if mandatorily, compulsorily, if your income or the income of the person on behalf of that person, if you are an assessee, that means deemed assessee, like you have a minor child, he is earning some income. So if his income is exceeding 2.5, 3 lakh, 5 lakh, etc., then you need to file return of income on the behalf of that person. So if any person on behalf of which you are assessable as an assessee, and if that person income is exceeding the basic exemption limit, then you also have to file your return of income. Okay. Now the third point, every person. So if you fulfill any of these conditions, you have to file your return of income. And we have multiple conditions. Not only this section, we have proviso also. Every person being a resident, that is ROR, other than not ordinary resident in India, within the meaning of section 6.6, who is not required to furnish a return of income under section 139 months. So if any person is a ROR who does not fall in point number 1 or point number 2. Point 1 says companies firm need to mandatory file. Point number 2 says if your income exceed exemption limit or that person for which you are assessable as an assessee, his income exceed the exemption limit, then you have to file. Now third point says if you are a ROR and you does not fall in category 1 or 2, but if you hold a beneficial owner or otherwise any asset. So if you are the beneficial owner of any asset which is located outside India. So whether your income is less than 3 lakh, less than 2.5 lakh does not matter. If you have a beneficial ownership of any asset which is located outside India, or you have a signing authority of any account outside India, in that case, you have to file your return of income. Or if you are a beneficiary of any asset, again, in that situation, you have to file your return of income. Clear? Now, meaning of beneficial owner, beneficiary, we have discussed detail in the last section. Requirement of return filing, a person, again, the topic we discussed, we have the diagram presentation, which is beautifully drafted by the BOS, of course, the institute. So these chart belongs to the institute, of course, I have just copied them. So the provision has been explained in the diagram format also. So you will be able to understand this provision with the help of diagram also. Now point number 4. Further, every person being an individual or an HUF or an AOP or BI, whether incorporated or not, or an artificial judicial person, whose total income or the total income of any other person in respect of which he is assessable under this act during the previous year. So point number 2 was saying if your income is exceeding 2.53, etc., or the person for which you are accessible, if that person income exceeding 2.53, etc., you are an assessee. So you need to file return. Now it says if again the same situation, individual HUF, AOP, BOI, or artificial judicial person, whose total income or the total income of any other person in respect of which he is assessable, if the total income without giving the effect of capital gain exemption 54B, D, ECF exceed the basic exemption limit, or without giving the effect of chapter 6A. Chapter 6A means deduction under section 80C to 80U. So if any person income exceeding 2.5 or 3 lakh without giving the effect of capital gain exemption or deduction under section 80C to 80U, then again he needs to or she needs to file return of income. So in MCQ, I've also framed question on this topic, point number 4. So when we discuss this kind of topic in our MCQ, it will clear your all doubt that what kind of total income we are talking about here. So just read the provision with me, stay with me. When we will solve the MCQ, each and every kind of topic will be clear there. So now the basic exemption limit has been explained. We all know 15 BAC has 3 lakh rupees. And in normal case, it's 2.5, 3 or 5 lakh rupees. Point number 5, again, the provision is still going on. It's not completed yet. So we have point number 1 for company and firm. We have point number 2 for other than company and firm. We have ROR if he has beneficial ownership or beneficiary. Any asset located outside India. Then we have the point number 4 provision that if your total income is exceeding 2.5, 3 or 5 without giving the exemption of section 54, etc. and deduction. Then now point number 5. It says if any person other than a company or firm who is not required to furnish a return as per above provision. So if any person does not fall in above point number 1, 2, 3, 4, he also or she also filed to return if that person fulfill any of these 3 or 4 conditions. Has deposited an amount or aggregate of the amount exceeding 1 crore in one or more current account. Has expenditure of an amount of aggregate of amount exceeding 2 lakh rupees for a foreign travel. Has incurred expenditure on an amount aggregate of the amount exceeding 1 lakh rupees for consumption of electricity or other prescribed condition. We have not finished still. We have other prescribed condition also. So you can see we have 4 condition, 4. We have almost A, B and C 3 more conditions. So total we have now 7 condition yet. So if you fall under any of these 7 condition, like 4 are mere conditions and 3 are sub condition of this condition. So total 7 condition is there. So if you fulfill any one of these 7 condition, you have to file return of income, but it's not still completed. We are moving on. There are certain more condition has been prescribed by the CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. So if you fulfill condition 1, 2, 3 or 4, any of these condition also, then you also need to file your return of income. So 7 was those condition and 4 are these conditions. So how much it is? 11. So if you technically fulfill any of these 11 condition, then you have to file your return of income and that is compulsory. Let me tell you, if in the examination, if there is a question which asked, kindly explain the condition in which there is requirement of furnishing of ITR. So you need to mention all these 11 conditions, or if there is a certain situation has been given that assessee is fulfilling this condition, explain he needs to file and return of income or not, then you have to think about all these 11 conditions. So if that situation fulfills any of these conditions, then he or she need to file return of income. Okay. You can do one thing. You can write these 11 conditions in a single place, like a short note. And then you can revise it whenever you want to know that whether he or she needs to file return of income or not. So if his total sale, turnover, gross asset or a business exceeding 60 lakh or a gross asset of profession exceeding 10 lakh rupees, if the aggregate TDS has been deducted 25,000 rupees or more, in case of citizen 50,000 or more, or he deposit one or more saving account 50 lakh rupees or more during the previous year. Okay. So these were the conditions. So if you fulfill any of these above condition, technically now after point number 4, that compulsory condition point has been completed. So you have to write those 11 conditions in your short note, etc. to revise for the purpose of examination. Fine. So please, as first step was that complete your course as soon as possible. Fine. The second is please attempt MTP, RTP questions, your study material, KYC. I request all of you again and again. Please solve all those questions. That is for your practice. MTP, RTP, study material question, test your knowledge question, even the illustration which has been given during the chapter, examples has been given. Please solve them. And your previous year question also, you can try them because the syllabus has been modified, but the topic is still the same. So you can try the PGBP question of the previous attempts because that is exactly the same which is going to be asked, like capital gain, etc. So you can also do that. So last 3 or 4 past attempt question, you can also try for the improvement of your solution habit. Okay. So now these 11 points we have discussed. Now, what is the meaning of due date? As I have discussed, there is certain date up to that you have to file your return of income. So in short, we will discuss 31st October of the assessment year. For example, our previous year is 23-24. Assessment year is 24-25. So we are talking about 31st October 2024. So कहते हैं all due date means assessment year 31st October 2024 where the assessee other than. So other than assessee referred to in second below. So A, B and C for these assessee the date is 31st October. Other than these there's also a date of 30th November and those does not fall in point number 1 or 2. The date will be 31st of July. We have discussed these provision in detail already in our chapter. You can revise it. The examples definitely you should solve for the purpose of your better knowledge, etc. We have already discussed these kind of example in our normal class. These all example I have discussed with the students. Okay. There is specified class or classes of person, those not need to file return of income. You can go through the provision. Now the time limit. I need to discuss the belated return provision, the revised return, the updated return, because those are very important topics out of this chapter, but it does not mean the other topics are not important. Everything is important. Now the return of loss is very, very interesting topic. So even if you have loss in the year, even if you have incurred a loss, you have suffered a loss, that information need to be given to the income tax department. If you are not going to submit your return of loss information, let me tell you very interestingly, under compulsory filing of return 11 condition, there is no compulsion that you should file if you have a loss. This point was not there. So if you have a loss, you do not need to compulsory file your return of income. It's your choice. If you want to file, you can file. But if you do not want to file, then you can skip it. But you should file a return of loss because you are not going to file your return of loss. That is going to be a loss in your hand because you cannot carry forward your losses if you are not going to file return of income. Now, very interesting thing, the carry forward provision technically under section 70, that is set off and carry forward of losses, that's the section 70, 71, 71B, 72, etc. Clear? That provision says when and how a person can carry forward his losses. In some situation, those are for 8 years. For some cases of losses like speculative business, that is 4 years time limit. For some losses, that is infinite time limit, etc., etc. So that chapter, those provisions says you can carry forward your losses to a certain year in case of certain losses. But that section is connected with section 139.3. This is the beauty of income tax syllabus. That section of some other chapter is going to be connected with some other chapter. Then the resultant provision we can understand as a whole. So if you only understood the provision of carry forward and losses, etc., but does not recall this section 139.3. It says if you have any loss and you need to carry forward, then you have to file your return of income as per section 139.3. So if you did not able to file your return of loss, then any loss you cannot carry forward. So this is a very important section related to the carry forward and set off of losses. So this section required the assessee to file a return of loss in the same manner as in the case of return of income within the time allowed under section 139.1. Section 80 requires mandatory filing of return. You can see students, it says mandatory filing of return. Mandatory. So if you are not able to file return, then you are not able to carry forward losses. Mandatory filing of return of loss under section 139.3 on or before due date under section 139. So first of all, you have to file a return of loss, and that is up to the due date. That might be 31st October, 30th November, or 31st July, as the case may be. So only in that case you can carry forward business losses, speculation losses, losses from a specified business, loss that capital gain, activity of owning and maintaining resources. And you can see there is not mentioned losses under the head of income from house property. So that is a benefit, that losses from the head of income from house property can be carried forward if you file your return of income after due date also. So you have to file your return, but even after you file it after due date, you can carry forward income from house property losses only. All other losses carry forward is only possible if you file your return up to the due date. So income from house property losses you can carry forward. You can see point number 4. It gives this benefit to income from house property losses and unabsorbed depreciation also. So unabsorbed depreciation is not a loss, but that is a, technically we can say that is a depreciation which cannot be absorbed by the profit of that business. So the time limit of unabsorbed depreciation is also infinite time. So you can carry forward it also if return has been filed after due date. So losses from house property and unabsorbed depreciation has this benefit. So point number 4 is very, very important for you. Now, so we discussed till now what is the normal return, the due date of when a person need to file the normal return and the return of loss. Now, what is belated return, updated return, and revised return? They all are written, or they all are same information what we need to submit to the income tax department. Belated return means, of course, the return which we filed after due date, because we are not able to file any return, suppose up to due date. So any return which is going to be filed after due date, but before the last date or up to the last date, that will be called belated return. Then updated return, we will discuss section 139(8)(a), and then revised return. So if there is any return we have filed and it has some omission or mistake, and we need to recalculate that, or we need to recorrect it, then we need to file a revised return. So a revised return can be filed only if there is a normal return which has been filed up to due date, or there must be a belated return. Only belated or normal return can be revised. Updated return, listen carefully, updated return, that is section 139(8)(a), that cannot be revised, that can only be filed once. So a return which has been filed up to due date or a belated return, that is only can be revised. So what is the last date of filing a belated return, or what is the last date of filing a revised return? We are going to see. Okay, Kiran Mishra is asking, sir, how to remember all these provision after understanding? That's why I say, revise, continuous revision. Like the first tip I have given to today, that is you need to complete your syllabus as soon as possible. The second tip I told you that please solve MRT, MTP, RTP, MCQs, etc. past year question. Now, the third point is the student asked that how to revise all these provision. Of course, syllabus is huge, gigantic. You have other topics also need to cover. How we will do this? There is only one thing. There is no shortcut. You have to follow the specific rule, specific strategy, and the basic strategy is to revise. Like there's a problem with every student. Whenever you start studying any chapter, when you complete chapter number 1, you solve those questions, you understood the provision whenever you are taking classes, and you feel that yes, now I am actually know about this chapter and I'm able to solve the question regarding it. Now what will happen? When you complete chapter number 1, then you will complete chapter number 2, and whenever you complete those chapters, you all have that feeling after completing the specific chapter that yes, we are able to solve this chapter. Now I know the provision, I can solve the questions also. But the problem will arise when you will solve chapter 1 and then when you will be on chapter number 5 or 6 or 4th. The chapter 1 provision might be not that fixed in your memory, not that fresh with your memory. You might not be able to solve question of chapter number 1 if you are now on chapter number 5 or 6, etc. And this is exactly happened with the other subject also. If you are completing income tax syllabus, you have completed your accounts, your law, and now you are completing income tax. So if you are focusing on income tax topic only for 1 month, then after 1 month, if you start revising again accounts or law, you will feel that might be I am not able to recall any provision of those chapter or the subject. So this is a normal situation which arises with every student. It's not happening with you, it's happening with everyone, except some over intelligent, extra brilliant, or God gifted, talented students. It is happening with everyone. It has been done with myself also, it's been happening with each and every student. So the solution is not anything magical, it's all about the hard work. Please always, there is a thing that is called continuous revision. So if in income tax, I have completed chapter number 1, that is basic concept. And now I'm moving on chapter number 2, that is residential status. So when you are doing residential status, then please remember, you have to revise the chapter number 1 again. It will not take much time. Even in an hour, only in 1 hour, you will able to revise the chapter number 1, that is basic concept. So you have to plan, you should make a schedule that on Sunday or like in a weekends, like Saturday and Sunday, I will revise those chapters which I have been completed earlier. Take time for 2 hours for each subject, like 2 hours for accounts, 2 hours for income tax, 2 hours for other topics, for weekends or whatever date suits to you. And in those days, you have to revise those topics which you have completed earlier. It will help you to reconnect with the future chapter also, and you are not going to lose the memory, whatever the questions, the way you have solved those questions earlier. So you have to do this thing. There is no other solution. You have to do a thing that is called continuous revision. And that is only possible if you are going to make a proper schedule for your studies. Weekends or any 2 days you have to decide, and in those 2 days you have to take 5 or 6 hours in which you are going to revise all the subjects. Never do this that you have completed your accounts, then for 2 months you are not going to touch the accounts topic and you are moving on to other subject. That is going to ruin your whole preparation of accounts. So please find some days, fix your hours of revision, and you, in that situation you have to revise those chapters. Now you might be thinking that yes, okay, fine, I can revise the basic concept in our 2 hours provisions because your simple chapters are first chapter. What will happen when you are on PGBP and now you have to revise chapter number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Then you have to increase the revision time. And let me tell you, if you revise continuously, then the revision will not take the timing what it exactly taken in the earlier revision. So if you revise basic concept in 2 hours first time, and when you come to revise again the basic concept chapter, it might take only 1 hour. So that is technically going to strong your provisions, and you will be connect all the time with all the topic and all the subject. So please make a specific, write your schedule and strictly follow it. Examination will be there after 3 months. So it's your future, how you are going to decide it. You have to sacrifice your parties, your gumna, etc. everything. Now you have to focus. So make a schedule and strictly follow it. Discipline. You cannot cheat yourself. So if you have to study, please make a schedule for your revision part, for the day you are going to revise which chapter, etc. And strictly follow it. And let me tell you, we having a human brain which is far better than any supercomputer in this world because they do not have adaptability. We can learn and read or do anything if we want to do it. So that is the only solution, and you should also all try that because I have exactly done the same thing. I never lose any chapter and never left any subject for 15 or 20 days because I know if I'm leaving any topic for 15, 20 days, then I'll be not able to recall that provision and it will take a more time when if I'll start revising that. So please, continuous revision is only the solution for this. Okay. So moving on to our belated return. Any person, Mr. Unnikrishnan V. Me. Belated means late file return. Can it be revised? Yes, of course. Belated return means any return which has been filed after due date and up to the last date. And it can also be revised, of course. In the detailed chapter, we have discussed that. Deemed assessee versus deemed resident. These are two different things, Mr. Unnikrishnan V. Me. Deemed assessee means that if you are going to file return of income for any other person for which you are a guardian, etc., that is called deemed assessee. Deemed resident is section 61A, which described if any individual fulfills certain condition, if he is earning more than a 15 lakh from Indian sources of any income on which tax has not been paid, etc., then you will be treated as deemed resident. So these are two different topics. These kind of questions should not be asked because that shows, that explains to me that you are not exactly reading the topic. The deemed resident is chapter number 2 and deemed assessee is chapter number 8. There is no correlation. They are two different things. So it's a request. Please do not ask these kind of questions. These are two different things. It's like you want to switch on the air condition with the remote of a television. So it's not going to be started. You need a air condition remote to switch on the air condition. Okay. Filing of return, Sangeeta Vani is asking, sir, please explain filing of return of partnership firm and partner. We are discussing that. We have discussed that the partnership firm always need to file return of income, whether it's a loss or income. When a partner need to file a return, so in that situation, if that partnership firm is under audit, then the partner's filing date of return and the partnership date of return will be the same. That's why for these kind of question, I have prepared 17, 18 MCQ. In those MCQ, that partnership firm question, whatever you are asking is also there. So stay with me. We will going to discuss those also. So belated return we can file at any time before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year. So the date for this previous year for filing a belated return is 31st December 24. It says 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year. So we are in previous year 23-24 and that assessment year is 24-25. So that means assessment year will end on 31st March 25. And the provision says before 3 months. So 3 months before this date will be 31st December 2024. Okay. So this date or before completion of assessment, whichever is earlier. So you can revise your belated return, you can file the belated return up to 31st December 24 or completion of assessment, whichever is earlier. So if assessment has been completed by the assessing officer or income tax officer before this date, then you cannot file belated return after completion of assessment. For example, look, this date is fixed. This date is fixed for every situation. Now, suppose in the question it says that the completion of assessment has been done by the assessing officer on, suppose, 11th November 2024. Now, if the question asks when you can file a report, the last date of filing of blade return, that will be 10th November 2024. So the assessment completion date is 11th November. Before that, you can only file the billet return. That means one day before. So assessment complete on 11 November, then you can file your billet return up to 10th November 2024. We have framed these kind of question also. Moving on further. Okay, Kiran Mishra is saying thank you. You're welcome. Okay. So that was belated. Now the revised return, exactly the same dates which has been discussed with belated return. It says if you have filed your return under section 139, you can revise only those return which has been filed. So if you have filed your return section 139.1, that means due date, or 139.4, that means belated. So these return can be revised if there is any omission or mistake. The date of revision will be exactly the same, 31st December or completion, whichever is earlier. Okay. Moving on further. This is the summary which has been drafted in your study material. Very wonderfully drafted. It is only a one page. You can revise all the provision which we have discussed till now. So as some student asks, sir, how can we learn or memorize these provision? This is the way. You when you understand the provision, read the whole provision, and this kind of summary is really important for the purpose of revision. If you'll take like 10 minutes, you can revise all the provision what we have discussed in last 14 15 pages. We are on our 15 16 number pages, and you can see only this single page is able to revise all your provision what we have discussed in last 15 pages. The question is there. Now, section 234A, that's for interest for delay in filing the return of income, etc. So if you are not able to file your return of income up to due date, you have to you have to pay some interest, that under section 234A. And there's some late fees also, which we are going to discuss. So section 234A, 234B, 234C, that might have been discussed with you in the TDS, TCS topic, I believe. So exactly the same provision that you have to pay simple interest 1% per month or part of the month, etc. When the return is furnished after the due date. When there is no return, then the date of completion of assessment. We have discussed these provisions also in detail with the normal class. Self-assessment tax. Now you can see till now we have discussed certain provision that what is the return submission meaning, what is the meaning of filing of return, that you have to submit all the information regarding your income. If you fall under specific 11 condition, that is for compulsory return. If you want to carry forward your loss, then you have to file your return compulsory technically. If there is certain date, you have to file your return for 31st of October till 30th of November and till 31st of July in certain situation. Then we have certain belated return provision, revised return provision. And now the tax, how you will calculate your tax, that is self-assessment tax. So whatever income you have earned, you have to calculate your tax upon such income after deducting the TDS you have already paid, after deducting any relief out of that tax, any TCS, any AMT credit, etc. Payment of tax, interest and fees before furnishing return of income. So where any tax is payable on the basis of any return required to be furnished under inter alia, that means among others, section 139 after taking into account. So whatever taxes already has been paid, we need to consider them. Any TDS which has been paid, any relief of tax under section 89 which we have discussed in which chapter we have discussed. Chalo batao. Any relief of tax claimed under section 89. In which chapter we discussed the relief provision under section 89? Answer in your chat box. I want to see any one of you remember in which chapter we have discussed the relief provision under section 89. Somebody has sent the answer. Pooja is saying salary. Well done. Rahul Jain is saying chapter 3. That you might be saying salary, of course. Yes, under salary, we have discussed the provision regarding section 89 relief provision. And that is connected with which kind of relief? Any one kind of relief can anybody send in the chat box? Relief was regarding which we can claim. Yes, of course, in salary, but you need to tell me, any one of you can tell me in the chat box when we can claim relief under salary head, in which situation, when it arises, in which situation. There are multiple cases in which relief can be claimed under salary head. So any situation in which we can claim that relief? You can send your answer in chat box. I will see if somebody is going to send those answer. Okay, send then AMT credit need to be checked it out. The AMT credit, if available, that needs to be considered also. Any tax or interest payable as per the provision of section 191(2). So if these five kind of taxes need to be considered before going to the self-assessment tax provision. Order of adjustment we have discussed. Interest under section 234A. For the purpose of calculating interest under section 234A, what is the meaning of tax? So it says for the purpose of for calculating tax, we have to reduce it by advance tax paid, of course, the TDS, TCS, again the relief, etc. Area of salary, Pranav was saying, well done, Pranav. Yes, area of salary, we have the relief provisions. Interest section under 234B. So if there is any interest under section 234B, then how we are going to calculate the amount of assessed tax? Exactly the same provision, almost as per section 234A. We have discussed all these things in detail in the previous lectures. Now the one more important topic, what I wanted to discuss with you was updated income tax return. After this topic, we will move on to our MCQ part. Okay. So updated return has been introduced by the income tax department, and it says that if your last date of filing has been passed away, that means 31st of December technically. Okay. So if the 31st December has been passed away, the last date has been passed away, then even if you want to file your return, you can update it. You can update it under section 139(8). It says, but there are certain condition, regulation, etc. You are only able to update your return if there is some tax liability, new tax liability arise. You cannot claim refund in it. You cannot increase your losses. You can decrease your losses. You can claim some tax liability, etc. So technically, you can update your income tax return only if there is some benefit to the income tax department in response of tax. There are certain conditions. It can be filed only once per assessment year. So if in the question it has been asked that can we revise updated return? So the answer is no. This is only can be filed only once. Only amount of income to be offered to tax is to be specified under the prescribed income head. So there must be some tax. There must be some tax. Only in that situation, you are able to file an updated income tax return. Third point says no return can be filed if departmental proceedings are going on. So if your assessment case is open, if your assessment case has been opened, or if there is any kind of income tax department proceeding has been initiated against you, in that case, you cannot file updated return. If a taxpayer files an updated return and does not pay the additional tax, then the return will be invalid because you have to show some extra income there must be some extra income tax liability when you are going to file an updated return. And if you are not going to pay that taxes, then you cannot file your return. And if you filed it, that will be invalid. There is again one more thing that is called additional tax liability. So there is some tax, and upon that tax, you again need to pay extra tax. That might be 25% of additional tax liability, or in some situation, it's 50% of tax liability. When it will be 25%, when it will be 50%, that is going to be discussed. Now, updated return detailed provisions are here. We are going to discuss only the specific or important point. Option to furnish update return. The time period we have is 24 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. So after our assessment year is 24-25, so within the 24 months from the last date of the assessment year, we can file our updated return. This is irrespective whether you have furnished the normal return or belated or revised or does not furnish it, it does not matter. You can file your update return within 2 years. For example, for assessment year 23-24, you can file it up to 31st March 2026. For our assessment year 24-25, we can update our return up to 31st March 2027. When you cannot file update return, situation in which update return is not allowed. If it is a loss return, that means there is no tax. If it has the effect of decreasing the tax liability. Or third point, if the result in refund of assessees. So that means if the benefit of filing updated return is with the assessee, his income tax liability can be reduced, his refund can be increased, his loss can be claimed, then update return is not allowed. So update return is only allowed if it is for the benefit of income tax department. So from the point of view of the tax structure. So if there is a benefit for the income tax department, they'll allow you to file update return. And if it is not, then they will not allow to file you an updated return. Clear? Update return can be filed if original return is a loss return and update return is a return of income. So that is allowed, of course. No update return furnished in the following scenario. So we have three conditions in which update return is not allowed, and we have multiple conditions over here also. Proceeding has been initiated, etc. You can go through it, of course. Tax on update return, it will be calculated as per normal manner. There is no specific special provision regarding the calculation of tax on update return. There is simple provision, except that additional tax liability of 25% or 50% in specific situation. When it's 25%, when it's 50%, that is also important. If such return is furnished after expiry of the time available under section 139 or 139(5), that means after 31st December 2024 and before completion of the period of 12 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. For example, that provision means on or after 1st January 2025 up to 31st March 12 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. So if you file this update and during this duration, then the aggregate of additional tax will be 25%. And if you file on or after 1st April 2026 till 31st March 2027, then in that case, the additional tax will be 50%. Okay. So that was updated return. Now what is defective return, etc.? That is discussed in the previous topic. Now there's a theoretical part. You have to go through all the provision. Now from the PAN number provision, that is a fees which need to be paid, a penalty. If you file return after due date, that could be 5,000. And if your income does not exceed 5 lakh, then it will be maximum 1,000 rupees. Now the PAN number provision, those theoretical. Let me tell you, in this PAN number provision, there is very important topic, that is transaction for which you have to submit your PAN number. That is very, very important. I guess nature of transaction. These point. Please revise all the transaction carefully, because out of these certain transaction can be asked in the examination. Almost 18 transactions are there. So you have to revise or learn all these 18 transactions that could be asked in the examination, or anything could be asked in the examination. So we have discussed the basic and important topic regarding our chapter number 8, that is return for income tax filing and self-assessment. So that might give you a overview of this chapter. So I was just trying to explain you this chapter, because now we are moving on to our MCQs. We have almost 17-18 MCQ regarding this topic. So we can ask, I will ask the question, you need to answer that. I will ask the technical team to unmute. Whoever want to answer, please raise your hand, and then that person will be unmute. And when I'll ask the question, you need to answer it. So we can also discuss the question, that why the answer is option A or B or C or D. As I always say, please read the MCQ very carefully before giving the answer. This is not a race. So you're not going to give any prize money or any kind of trophy if you'll answer first. So please take your time. It's good to take time and give the correct answer in comparison to give the wrong answer in a hurry. Okay. So moving on to our question sheet. This is our question sheet. So please read the question, and whomsoever wants to answer, please raise your hand, so that participant will be unmuted and you can answer those questions. Okay. There is a moment of truth, such ka samna. Let's see. So as per section 139(1), a company shall have to file return of income. You need to read the options. And once you read the option, once you read the question, then you need to answer. I again request you, there is a process to give the answer of any question. First, you have to read the question, then think about the provision, then only answer. Okay. So Pranav wants to answer. So can we, Pooja also raised hand? Don't send your answer in the chat box, Pranav, or any student. Kindly just raise your hand. Please listen carefully. I have asked all of you, please raise your hand. That's the problem. You guys do not listen. Please listen. Then I will ask to unmute the technical team to the specific student, and then he or she can answer. Okay. So Pooja raised her hand. Please ask Pooja. Technical, please unmute the Pooja.
Sir, option D, I was
Option D.
because
please speak loudly. Yes. Why?
compulsory company to compulsory written file.
Correct. That's why I was saying this thing, that we need to ask by raising hand, because Pranav, if you answer in the chat box, then how I'll able to ask the provision that why you are answering that question. So that's a revision class. That's an interactive class. The BOS has been specifically said that we have to communicate with the students. So that's why I'm asking, because I need to ask why you are giving option number A, B, or C, or D. So Pooja is right, because in case of a company and partnership firm, whatever is your income, that is, you have to file your return of income, because that is a compulsory condition. So whether it's income, it's more than 250, maximum not chargeable to tax, when TI exceeding 3 lakh, all are irrelevant. Whatever may be your income, you have to file your return of income. Well done, Pooja. Next question is, read it carefully. Please read it carefully and then only raise your hand. So I'll ask the team that they will unmute you. As per section 139(1), an individual other than an individual of age of 60 year or more opts to be taxed under the optional tax regime shall have to file ITR if पूजा एंड प्रणव. ओके, प्रणव अनम्यूट करते हैं प्रणव को. प्रणव विल आंसर. यस प्रणव. Please unmute Pranav so he will able to answer.
Sir, option number B.
Option number
B.
B. That is total income exceeding 3 lakh rupees.
Yes, sir.
No, beta. No. Pooja, you answer.
Sir, option C.
Option number C. Pranav, ध्यान से देखो बेटा. An individual other than an individual. So we are not asking for those person having age 50 year or more. 3 lakh wala case is applicable if you are a senior citizen. So we have said other than individual. That's why I asking now. Please read the question. And we have discussed today only in compulsory condition cases. And Pooja, we discussed that if your before allowing exemption and deduction, if your income exceeding 2,50,000, then you have to file your return of income. So option number C is correct. If it has been asked that that is a senior citizen, then your answer could be B, but in this situation, the correct answer will be C. Please read the question carefully. All other students except Pooja and Pranav, are you all sleeping? Still sleeping? I can see almost 50, 60 students are watching live now. Still only 2 students will raise your hand. Don't do this with yourself. Please, okay? Yes, Pooja.
इसमें मुझे पूछना था कि जैसे प्रोविजन तो सब दोनों दिए हुए हैं, जैसे कि टोटल इनकम एक्सीड बेसिक एग्जम्पशन लिमिट वो भी दिया हुआ है, और ये जैसे सी वाला भी दिया हुआ है कि 54 टीसी, और ये तो मतलब प्रीवेल यही करेगा क्योंकि उस मतलब जो प्रोविजंस यहाँ दिए हुए हैं वहाँ पे दोनों दिए हुए हैं.
देखिए होता क्या है ना, जब हमारे पास एमसीक्यू होते हैं, एमसीक्यू में कई बार ऐसा होता है कि बिल्कुल करेक्ट आंसर नहीं होता, बट जो मोस्ट सुटेबल आंसर होता है, जो सबसे सही सुटेबल आंसर होता है, हमें वो देना पड़ता है. सो जो ए पॉइंट है वो कह रहा है टोटल इनकम एक्सीडिंग 250, बी कह रहा है टोटल इनकम एक्सीडिंग 3 लाख. बट आप देखें तो जो सी पॉइंट है वो सबसे ज्यादा इलेबोरेटिव, सबसे ज्यादा क्लियर है. आप देखेंगे ना चारों में सबसे ज्यादा क्लियर कौन सा है, हमारा पॉइंट नंबर सी. ऐसे तो डी भी हो सकता है बिकॉज डिडक्शन से पहले भी अगर 2.5 लाख से ऊपर है तब भी हो सकता है, बट जब आप सी चेक करोगे तो सी सबसे ज्यादा इलेबोरेटिव और क्लियर आंसर आ रहा है जो इसमें लगना चाहिए. तो कई बार हमें ऐसा देखना पड़ता है जो सबसे क्लियर आंसर हो, जो सबसे ज्यादा सही लगता है वो ऑप्ट करते हैं. ठीक है.
एक और बात पूछनी थी कि जो
जी.
139 सेक्शन 3 है उसके
जी.
अंदर लॉस के जो रिटर्न है, जो कैरी फॉरवर्ड लॉस होते हैं,
जी.
तो सर जो जैसे पीछे से जो कैरी फॉरवर्ड होते आ रहे हैं
जी.
क्या वो मतलब वो भी कैरी फॉरवर्ड नहीं होंगे अगर ड्यू डेट से पहले
हाँ,
हमने
बिल्कुल सही बात. अगर एक बार रिटर्न आपकी लॉस की लेट फाइल हो गई तो पिछले सारे लॉसेस वेस्ट हो जाते हैं आपके. तो इसीलिए इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट सेक्शन 139(3). टेक्निकली सेट ऑफ का चैप्टर जितना इंपॉर्टेंट है ना, उससे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट एक सेक्शन है. अगर बच्चे ने पूरा सेट ऑफ पढ़ा हुआ है या किसी भी पर्सन ने अपनी लाइफ में सेट ऑफ के सारे प्रोविजन याद कर रखे हैं कि 4 इयर्स सेट ऑफ होगा, 8 इयर्स होगा, सारे प्रोविजन याद है, एक प्रोविजन भूल गया कि ड्यू डेट पर रिटर्न फाइल करनी थी, तो ऐसा होने पर सारे के सारे जो प्रोविजंस हैं, सारे बेनिफिट्स हैं, वो चले जाते हैं. ऑनली इन केस ऑफ एक्सेप्ट हाउस प्रॉपर्टी एंड अनएब्सॉर्ब डेप्रिसिएशन. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, ध्यान से पढ़ना इस क्वेश्चन को एवरीबडी। Raja dies on 25th December 23 and his total income till 21st December 23 was 3,50,000. Thereafter, his business was inherited by his daughter Rani and her total income from such business was 1,75,000. Daughter does not have any other income. In this scenario, she. ओके, देखें कौन कौन बच्चा आंसर देना चाहता है। पीजे आदित्य, प्लीज अनम्यूट पीजे आदित्य। यस आदित्य।
Sir, since it is a business income, the option is A, sir.
ऑप्शन इज ए।
Yes, sir.
लेट्स सी, और कोई आंसर देना चाहता है? पीजे आदित्य के अलावा पूजा, यू वांट टू आंसर?
Sir, I think also A.
You also think say? Anyone else want to raise his or her hands? If I have not taken your name, kindly raise your hand again so I will be able to see. Vaishali, nahi, Vidushi Jaiswal, he wants to answer. The correct answer is not A. Anyone have any other answer except option number A? Swaroop. Okay, yes, Swaroop. Please unmute Swaroop.
So option B, beneficiary SSCA.
Very good. Well done. Well done. Let me tell you now why we are taking these classes. Like, this is the beauty of taking questions or doing question, because when we read the provision, we think that yes, we understood the provision. But when we solve the question, whether it's numerical, etc., you will get the clarity. Okay, what we were thinking might be that is not the case. Exactly. So please ध्यान से समझिए सब लोग. Raja dies on 21st December 23 and his TI is 3,50,000. So his TI is exceeding the exemption limit. Now the daughter income is only 1,75,000. So there are two separate assessee. The point number 2 of the compulsory filing of return says if the assessee income or the income of the person for which he is a deemed assessee, if that situation, any of them separately need to be checked, that cannot be combined because the business has been inherited by her daughter. So technically Raja income is 350 and her daughter income is 1,75,000. It does not matter that she is running the same business. It does not mean that her father income will be taxable as her income. So now Rani is technically, you can see, Rani herself income is 1,75,000. And for her father Raja, Rani is now deemed assessee. So her father income is exceeding only 2,50,000, the basic exemption limit. So she needs to file the return of income as deemed assessee for her father only. And she is not liable to file her return of income. So the correct answer is option number B. You will see that when we will discussing the MCQ, by the end of the MCQ, you will have a greater knowledge, the better knowledge of this chapter. Why? Because this chapter is technically theoretical plus technical. So until we will solve these kind of questions, there might be some confusion in your mind regarding the questions. Okay, well done.
सर इसमें इसमें
थोड़ा
ये
जोर
पूछना
से
था
बोलो पूजा, आवाज तुम्हारी बहुत हल्की है, थोड़ा जोर से बोलो।
सर इसमें ये जानना था कि जैसे टोटल बिजनेस इनकम तो फिर 5,25,000 होगी।
हम बिजनेस
और
वाइज इनकम टैक्सेबल नहीं करते, हम असेसी वाइज इनकम टैक्सेबल करते हैं। असेसी वाइज। अच्छा एक बात बताओ, अगर एक पार्टनरशिप फर्म है, 4 पार्टनर है, तो पार्टनर्स की जब इनकम टैक्सेबल होगी तो सेपरेट सेपरेट असेसी माने जाएंगे ना। तो बिजनेस एक होने से फर्क नहीं पड़ता। बिजनेस जो असेसी है वो कितने हैं? एक तो राजा है जिसकी इनकम 3.5 लाख है, और एक उनकी डॉटर है जो उसी बिजनेस से कमाती है। इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि बिजनेस सेम था। दैट बिजनेस हैज बीन इनहेरिटेड, मतलब डेथ के बाद वो डॉटर कैरी कर रही है उसके पेन नंबर पर। तो इसीलिए जो मिस्टर राजा थे उनके पेन नंबर पे इनकम पहले ही आ चुकी है, और जो रानी है उनके पेन नंबर पर इनकम ये है। So in that situation, only 3,50,000 needs to be filed. Return of income. Clear?
ओके सर।
Okay. Moving on to our next question. Vidushi is sending answer in chat box. Vidushi, it's a request. Please, if you want to answer, it's a request. Raise your hand and be a part of this interactive section. Okay? That will be beneficial for you. Okay? Next. Okay, question number 4. The due date of filing of return of income under section 139(1) for assessment year 24-25 in case of a company is. Okay, पूजा, प्रणव और किसने फेस किए हैं? ओके, किससे हमने अभी तक नहीं पूछा है? ओके, स्वरूप, यू आंसर। चलो स्वरूप।
Option C, sir, 31st October.
Option C, 31st October. Okay, Pranav, you answer. Are you?
Sir, option D.
Option D. Okay. और किसने हैंड रेस किया है? रूहानी जैन। रूहानी, यू आंसर।
Sir, option number D.
Option number D. Okay. Kiran, you answer. Okay, Kiran is not there, I guess. So the correct answer is correct D. Read the provision. If you might have not seen that we have that provision in the return filing, as we discussed, those are giving other answer like A or B. You did not go through the provision in detail. Let me show you why it's D, because it has been specifically written under due date provision. Look, this is 30th November of the assessment year in the case of an assessee, including the partners of the firm being such assessee who is required to furnish a report referred to in section 92E. So if you need to furnish a report under section 92E in case of transfer pricing provision was there, then the due date will be 30th of November. So in our question, you can see it has been specifically written 30th November of an assessment year in case needs to furnish. As I told earlier, in the question, you need to see what is the detailed answer. 31st October could be answer, but 30th November is the better answer than 31st of October. So we have to opt that because that is a detailed provision. It says if there is 30th November, assessment year in case needs to furnish report under section 92E and 31st October in assessment year on other cases. So D is the correct and detailed elaborative answer, which is exactly you have to opt for the purpose of examination. Okay. Moving on to next question. The due date of filing of the return of income. Now read carefully. For assessment year 24-25, in case of a working partner, remember now we are asking the return date for working partner of a firm whose accounts are required to be audited shall be. Hemlata wants to answer. Welcome, Hemlata. Bataiye. Hemant, sorry, Hemant. It's Hemant Narula. Hemant, please you answer. Hemant gaye? Okay. Rahul Ruhani, you answer.
Sir, it's
Option A.
satisfactory.
Option? Which option?
Option A, sir.
A.
Option A. Ruhani, you are also saying option A.
Yes, sir.
Pranav, you answer.
Sir, option A.
Option
A.
D.
Sorry, sir. A.
A. Okay. और कौन बचा? Kiran, you answer.
31st October.
Option.
Option A.
Okay. Sayanto Sen, you answer.
Yes, sir. So the correct option will be option A, 31st October of assessment year.
Okay. अच्छा अभी जरा प्रोविजन पढ़ते हैं वापस से इसका, फिर बताना मेरे को आंसर आप लोग, ठीक है ना? ठीक से प्रोविजन नहीं पढ़ रहे, ये जरा प्रोविजन पढ़ना सब बच्चे. Read it provision. Abhi just we have discussed 30th November of the assessment year in the case of an assessee including the partners of the firm being such assessee who is required to furnish a report referred to in section including the partners of the firm. हाँ भाई किरण, what is the answer? अब बताओ. This should be the correct answer. The answer will be D. Because even if you are a partnership firm and if you can understand, na, D is the detailed and correct answer. You have to opt the correct and detailed answer. 31st October could be answer, but 30th D point is the better answer than point number A. Might be if there is 92E is applicable, then the date must be 30th of November. So that is a detailed answer. You have to opt the detailed answer correctly. That was fifth. Okay, next. The answer will remain the same, of course. Option number D, same question, but it is for, I just changed the non-working partner. But the answer will remain the same, option number D. Okay, now seventh. The filing date of return of loss in case of a person other than a company or firm is. If you wants to carry forward your losses, what is the filing date of return of loss in case of person other than a company or firm? Hemant want to answer. Hemant, please answer.
Option number C.
Option number C. Well done. Correct. So other than a company and firm, compulsory if assessee has to carry forward losses. So filing of return of loss is not mandatory except in case of company or firm. For other than company and firm, it's not compulsory that you need to file your return of loss. Non-compulsory is not a correct answer, but compulsory if assessee has to carry forward losses which are allowed to be carried forward and set off. So if you want to carry forward your losses, in that situation, you need to file your return of loss up to a certain date. Well done, Hemant. Next is If assessee wants to carry forward the loss, except loss under the head income from house property, the return of loss must be submitted. Swaroop wants to answer. Okay, Swaroop.
Option A.
Option A. Okay, Pranav also wants to answer. Yes, Pranav.
Sir, option A.
Option
A.
A. Okay,
Yes.
correct. The correct answer is option A, because for the purpose of income from house property, you can file your return even after due date, but for all other losses, exactly the same which has been asked in the question. For all other losses, it is mandatory that you should have filed your return of loss up to the due date of section 139(1). Now, question number 9 says belated return can be filed at any time. Read the provision. Okay, Swaroop raise his hand. PJ Aditya, you answer.
Sir, option number C.
Option number C. Okay, Syanto, you answer.
Yes, sir. So option number C, before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment or before completion, whichever is earlier.
Correct. Very well done. Now, suppose if the option D I changed, and I written this option in place of option D, before 3 months prior to the end of relevant assessment year. Then what will be the correct option? Will it change? Option
D.
D. Okay. Who is this? Pranav, you answered that?
No. No.
Okay. What's your name? Okay, Sayanto, you answer. If I change option number D with this before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year. Now, what is the correct answer, Sayanto?
So,
Option D.
so I think the correct answer will still remain option C, because it said that 3 months before the end or the completion, whichever is coming first. So I assume it's C only, sir.
Okay, okay. Pooja, you answer. Option will change or no?
No, sir. Option C is correct.
Okay. Yes, correct. The correct answer will remain the C. That's what I was saying to you. In the previous question, like your answer 31st October. So this could be also a correct answer because that is also a condition, but this is not a complete answer. For MCQ, we have to choose the complete answer. So this C is better than D. So our answer will remain the same. Understood? Okay. Now suppose I change this again. Now I have removed this point and now I am going to write like this. Read it carefully. Option D has been now this. Within 9 months from end of financial year or before completion of assessment, whichever is earlier. So technically you can see within 9 months from the end of financial year or before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year. This date will be called 31st December 24. And technically this will also come like the same. And the other part is similar in both of these options. Now what will be the correct answer? Let me tell you. Do not raise your hand. Let me tell you. In both cases, you can see the final answer will be the same because the earlier date will be the same. But in act, if somebody will say option D can sir also be correct. as per the date, this is same, but not as per the law. Under law, before 3 months condition has been written, not within 9 months. This is we just manipulated or changed the provision. So that not to be done. If the question has been changed like this, you might be thinking both dates are same. So what's the difference? The difference is as law does not describe this condition. Law describes this condition. So in that situation also, we have to select the option number C. Okay, that's for your knowledge. In any condition, if you find that two answers are same, but you need to follow which is has been given as per the provision. That is question number 9. Okay, now we have left with 9 more question MCQ. So we will take a short break of 10 minutes, and when we will resume, then we will complete our remaining 9 MCQ question. Okay, so Ashokji, can we go for a small break? Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. I believe that you must have your tea, coffee, etc. So you are energetic again to continue the class. So as we were discussing the MCQs, in last MCQ we have discussed, that was 9-number MCQ. So moving on. Now the next MCQ is, what is the last date of filing of ITR for assessment year 24-25 if no assessment has been done? Very simple question, very simple MCQ. Swaroop wants to answer. Yes, Swaroop, please go ahead.
Option B.
Option B, correct. So, because the question says what is the last date of filing of ITR if no assessment has been done? So, the correct answer is, of course, 3 months prior to the date of end of the relevant assessment year. So, the date will come 31st December 2024. Correct. Well done. Next is, what is the last date of filing of ITR? Now it's very interesting question. Read it carefully. I have discussed this kind of question in the class in recent what we have discussed before T. So please read the question and then please answer after applying the provision. What is the last date of filing of ITR for assessment year 24-25? If assessment has been done on 10th December 24 and it was communicated to the assessee on 25th December 24. Read the provision, read the question, apply the provision and then only answer, because I will answer whatever answer you will give, I will answer why. So please take your time. Pooja raise hand, Swaroop, anyone else? All others are sleeping. Okay, Pooja, you answer.
Sir, answer A.
Answer A. और why? क्यों? A क्यों?
Sir, because assessment
हो गया है.
last date, yes sir, last date जो है वो assessment और 31st मतलब.
Correct. The provision says कि भाई last date होती है 31st December 24.
Or assessment when assessment has been done.
पक्का?
Yes sir.
यही लिखा है प्रोविजन में. आप जो बोल रहे हो मैं सिर्फ वो लिख रहा हूँ.
Yes,
असेसमेंट हैज बीन डन, मतलब वो डेट हो गई 10 दिसंबर 24. ठीक है.
yes, yes,
इसमें से अर्लियर ले लिया आपने, है ना? ओके. एनीवन एल्स? और कौन आंसर देने वाला था? स्वरूप वाज रेज्ड हिज हैंड. स्वरूप, यू वांट टू ट्राई?
हाँ सर, 31 दिसंबर या असेसमेंट जो भी अर्ली होगा.
हमारा ऑप्शन कौन सा करेक्ट है इसमें, बताओ.
ए.
ए. ओके. विदुषी चैट बॉक्स में लिखे जा रही है सी. विदुषी प्लीज टॉक टू अस, तो चीजें क्लियर हो पाएंगी. ओके. ओके, चलो देखो भाई, प्रोविजन तो ये नहीं था. दैट्स व्हाट आई एम सेइंग ना. इस क्लास का फायदा क्या हो रहा है कि हम अपनी मिस्टेक समझ रहे हैं. यही क्वेश्चन अगर एग्जाम में आता और आप लोग इसका ऑप्शन ए लिख कर आओगे तो मार्क्स कट जाएंगे, जबकि आपको प्रोविजन पूरा याद है, बिल्कुल ठीक बता रहे हो ऑलमोस्ट, बट एक वर्ड आप मिस कर रहे हो, एक वर्ड उसका. यही क्वेश्चन अभी मैंने क्लास में भी अभी डिस्कस किया है. अभी अभी हम आज जब पढ़ रहे थे ना, तब ऐसे एक क्वेश्चन मैंने डिस्कस भी किया. तो ऑप्शन ए करेक्ट नहीं है. यही फायदा है इंस्टीट्यूट, बीओएस आपके लिए सब क्यों कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज आप अपनी मिस्टेक्स जो एग्जाम में करके अपने मार्क्स कटवाने वाले हो ना, वो अभी हो जाए, अभी ठीक हो जाए. ऑप्शन ए इज नॉट करेक्ट. चलो प्रोविजन देखते हैं क्या है ना. माइट बी यू विल बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड कि एक्चुअली मिस्टेक कहां हो रही है. फाइन. सो हम देख रहे हैं लास्ट डेट ऑफ फाइलिंग ऑफ आईटीआर. चलो लेट्स सी. माइट बी प्रोविजन पढ़ने के बाद आप लोगों को आइडिया हो कि गलती क्या हो रही थी. पीरियड पे चेक कर लेते हैं. पीरियड वाला टाइम ड्यूरेशन ही है. चलो पढ़ते हैं ना. एनी पर्सन, ये रहा प्रोविजन इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू. नाउ सपोज टेक्निकली आई हैव गिवन यू द बुक. उसके बाद भी if you have provision in front of yourself and even after that we are not able to find the correct answer, so what is the problem? The problem is the implication. That is why practice is necessary. You might be able to learn all the provision, but until otherwise you'll practice it, you might not be able to solve those questions in the examination. Now you have the provision. What is the provision? Before 3 months prior to the end of the relevant assessment year. So this date is correct. Fine. You have also show the correct date to me. That was this date was correct. But are you reading the second date correctly? That is before the completion of the assessment. Are you not missing this word? What is the meaning of word before? You are just discussing completion of assessment, but there is a word that is called before the completion of assessment. So dear students, this is the date of completion of assessment. So we don't need the date of completion of assessment. We need the date before the completion of assessment. Understood? That means first date is 31st December 24. Before the completion of assessment. Before completion, it's not 10th is the date of completion of assessment. First date is 31st December 2024. Before the completion of assessment. Understood? Before completion, it's not 10th is the date of completion of assessment. First date is 31st December 2024. Before the completion of assessment. So the date will be 9 December 24. So the correct answer will be B. Everybody got it? What I was trying to say, suppose if the examination, this question will be there. You all are going to take option number A, most of you. But now you understand what is the benefit of these classes? That we are over here to make you understand your mistakes. So because this is the time of learning, this won't be happen in the examination. If you do this in examination, you will going to reduce your marks. So this is the benefit of class. Okay. You should thanks to the BOS and ICAI who is doing all these efforts for you and the whole team, the coordinator. We are just the faculty, but actually the person those are working behind this, they are actually putting a lot more effort than this. Clear? So please read the provision, apply them correctly, and then you will be a chartered accountant, of course. Okay, next. So that was question number 11. Moving on to question number 12. Vidushi is saying I'm not able to raise hand, sir, from laptop. Okay, it's okay. Fine. Next question is for previous year 22-23. Now it's regarding set off of losses also connected with this question. So previous year 22-23 we are asking. Okay, last preceding year. Our previous year is 23-24, but this question belongs to previous year 22-23 because we need to carry forward these losses in our previous year 23-24. So question asks whether we are able to carry forward or not. Okay, that's why it's for preceding previous year. So for previous year 22-23, a Sassi has suffered a business loss of 3 lakh. His income from other sources 1,30,000. His due date of ITR is 31st July. But he filed ITR on 19th October 23. So you have to find the correct answer A, B, C, or D. And of course, I will ask why also. Read the question, read the option, apply the provision. Please recall the set of provision also because all chapters have been completed. So you might be revising each and everything. So please apply a little bit of set off of losses. There is nothing much to apply in set of losses. Technically, it's connected with the return filing provision, section 139(3). So who wants to raise his or her hands? Swaroop, okay. Go ahead, Swaroop.
So option B.
Option B. That means he cannot carry forward any loss. And why?
बिजनेस इनकम है सर, हाउस प्रॉपर्टी होता तो कैरी फॉरवर्ड हो जाता.
ओके, बिजनेस का है तो वो कैरी फॉरवर्ड नहीं हो पाएगा. अच्छा, ओके. पूजा, आप आंसर देना चाहते हैं, बताइए. पूजा, यू वांट टू आंसर?
सर बी किया है.
कौन सा ऑप्शन है? बी. ओके, एनीवन एल्स? जो लोग क्वेरी पोर्टल पे आंसर भेजते हैं, ऑप्शन, जैसे चंचल भेज रही हैं, शिवानंद भेज रहे हैं, जावेद भेज रहे हैं, प्लीज क्वेश्चन नंबर जरूर लिखो. प्लीज राइट द क्वेश्चन नंबर देन ऑप्शन, बिकॉज आई वुड नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड विच क्वेश्चन ऑप्शन you are actually sending to me. So whether it's question number 6, 7, in the previous classes also I have asked that whenever you send your answer from query portal or chat box, please write the question for which you are going to answer. How would I come to know, or how would any faculty come to know that which answer you are sending? You might be sending those question late. I am asking question number 12. You might be sending the question number 10 answer. So how it will be able to tell you that you are correct or incorrect? Okay, so somebody is saying B. B. Fazi is saying. CIT Kala is saying also B. But the correct answer is not B. Let me tell you. The correct answer is not B. Now you have option left with A, C, and D. So anybody wants to try for A, C, D? Remember, if you will answer, I will ask you why. So do not try to just make a guess. Don't do that. So if you understand why it's not B, why it could be A, C, or D. So if you have the concept, you have the provision, you have the answer to reply, then only raise your hand. Otherwise, I am going to answer. Harish is saying from Harish Chandra is saying option number C. The problem is this, Harish, because you are sending your answer via query session. I can't ask you why you are selecting option number C. Vidushi is also saying answer C. Fine, chalo, answer, correct answer is C. This is correct answer. Option C is correct answer. But why C is the correct answer? What is the reason? Of course, if I will say that B is not the correct answer, then the reason left is only C is the genuine reason what we have left. The reason is, if you want able to file return of loss on due date, because of business loss, so it has to be submit up to the due date of ROI, which was 31st of July, but he filed ROI on 19th of October 23. So if you are not able to file your ITI or due date, then you are not able to carry forward losses. You can read section 139.3. It restrict the carry forward of losses, but not to set of losses in current year. You can still set off current year losses, even if you are going to file your ROI late. So in previous year 22-23, you have a business loss of 3 lakh and other sources 130. So you can set off this losses from income from other source. So remaining will be 1,70,000 business loss. Now 139.3 restrict the carry forward into the next year. So because he did not file his ROI up to due date, so now he cannot carry forward this loss for the future year. But the current year set off is allowed. So 139.3 does not talk about the set off of current year losses with current year income. It only restricts the carry forward provision. So this set off is allowed, but the 170 which has been left, that cannot be carry forward. The carry forward provision. So this set off is allowed, but the 170 which has been left, that cannot be carry forward. The carry forward provision. So this set off is allowed, but the 170 which has been left, that cannot be. Now question number 13. It's exactly almost the same, but there's a change in this question. So read it carefully. For previous year 22-23, assessee has suffered an income from house property loss of 1,20,000. Sorry, income from house property loss of 1,20,000 he has suffered. His income from other sources 50,000. His due date of filing of 31st July, but he filed ITR on 19th of October 23. So now what is the correct option in this case? Pranav Singh wants to answer, and Pranav, you answer. Which is the correct option?
Sir, option C.
Option C, and option C say can set off 50,000 losses from other source and can carry forward also 70,000. Why he can carry forward 70,000 loss?
Because sir, in case of a house property, we can carry forward if even if we not file the return on
Up to the due date. Yes. If we
Yes.
file after due date, we can carry forward. Yes. Well done. Correct answer is option number C. Correct. Very correct. Sangeeta is saying C. Well done. Okay. So that was because the loss pertains to the income from house property. Palak wants to say something. Palak, fine. You say.
ऑप्शन सी सर मैं भी यही बोलना चाहती थी हाँ
Because it's income from house property. Okay.
हाउस प्रॉपर्टी ओके
Suppose, Palak, I have changed this. Now this is not income from house property. I am going to ask this question to everyone. Now suppose this is long-term capital gain loss of 1,20,000. Do not hesitate. If you do not the answer, don't feel bad if I'll raise my hand, if sir will ask and sir will change the question and I will not be able to answer, that will be an insult. No, nothing is going to happen. You are learning something new. Those not asking, those not watching this lecture, technically that's their loss. So I'm just changing the question just to make you understand that things can be changed or question can be changed in the examination. But if we know the provision, if we know how to solve the question, we can still solve it. So fine. Now, can you tell me now which option is correct? Any one of you, Pooja, Palak, etc. Who wants to answer? Palak, you still wants to answer this? Can you answer
यस
this?
सर अब ये
Option
बी
B.
cannot carry forward any loss
Cannot carry forward any loss. Okay. Pooja? Can we set off this?
yeah sir 50,000 can be set off in the current year
Okay.
out of 1,20,000 50,000 can be set off and 70,000 cannot be carry forward
Okay, like I can do this now. I change this option now. Can set off 50,000 losses from other sources and cannot carry forward 70,000 losses. So if the question is now long-term capital loss, then the correct answer will be now C. Will be now correct answer.
yeah sir
Okay, Pooja, you want to answer this?
Sir, answer B.
Okay, Swaroop, you want to answer?
Sir, B cannot carry forward.
Cannot carry forward. Correct. When you read a question, now I asked you that please apply the provision. You forgot that whenever we are trying to solve this question, you forgot the provision of losses. Capital gain losses cannot be set off from any head. You forgot? Long-term capital loss can be set off against only long-term capital gain, and short-term capital loss can be set off against long-term gain or short-term gain. But capital gain head loss cannot be set off from any other head. So in this situation, we cannot even set off this loss and we cannot carry forward this loss. So we cannot carry forward this loss. Option B could be a correct answer. A is not possible because we cannot set off this losses. Or C is also not correct because we cannot set off, because long-term losses cannot be set off from income from other sources. So when you focused on only the carry forward provision, I just changed it to long-term capital gain to check whether you applying the provision of set off or you are just applying the focus on this written provision section 139.3. So you have to first apply the loss set of provision. But can we set off long-term losses from other sources? You skipped that point. And because you skipped that point, that means your answer will be wrong. Clear? Okay, moving on to next question. Question number 14. For previous year 22-23, Krishnan was saying yes, no long-term gain against set off. Correct. For previous year 22-23, assessee had suffered a business losses. Whenever there's a question of losses, first of all, you have to apply the provision of losses. Then we will think about whether it can be carry forward due to ITR provision or not. First concept is, can it be set off from other head of income, or which income can it's possible to set off? If the answer is yes, then you should apply the provision of return. So assessee has suffered a business loss of 1 lakh rupees and current year debt was 160. His due date of ITR is 31st October, but he filed on 12 December 23. In this case, assessee shall. What will be the correct answer?
Answer B.
Cannot carry forward any loss and unabsorbed depreciation by?
Both sir, they filed the done after due date.
Okay. Vidushi raise her hand. Vidushi, please answer.
Option C.
Option C. Why option C?
Sir, because we can carry forward depreciation, unabsorbed depreciation.
Correct. Well done. Very good. Again, you forgot, we have discussed today only that house property and unabsorbed depreciation can be carried forward even if return has been filed after due date. So cannot carry forward 1 lakh business losses, of course, correct, but UD can be carried forward. So the correct option is option number C. Well done, Vidushi. Next is, a person can furnish an updated ITR if, read it, provision, and give me the answer. First, raise your hand. I will ask who's going to answer, then only answer. Okay, Vidushi wants to answer. Yes, Vidushi.
Sir, option B.
B. He has furnished the ITR earlier. Okay. Alak, you want to answer? Please answer.
Option B, sir. He has furnished the ITR earlier.
So we can only furnish an updated ITR only if we have furnished an earlier ITR. Seriously? No, we have discussed today. Okay. Anyone else who is there?
Your answer D.
Correct option is D. Correct. We can submit an updated ITR whether we have submitted an earlier ITR or we had not submitted any ITR. It does not matter. You might get confused in options C or D because they both are again talking like the same option. But this is again the detail specific section. So the correct option is D because we can submit updated ITR whether we have submitted ITR earlier or not. It does not matter. Next. These are simple questions. The provision of section 139(8)(a) shall not apply in case updated return. Vidushi raise her hand. Yes, Vidushi, go ahead. Fazi, please, Fazi, go ahead.
D.
Option number D. Correct. All options, all conditions should be fulfilled. We cannot file return under section 139(8)(a) if it is a return of loss, if it has the effect of decreasing the tax or increasing the refund. So the correct option is option number D. Well done. Second last question. X finds some omission in the ITR filed by him on 5th July 2024 for assessment year 24-25. He wants to revise such return. Can he do so if no assessment has been done in this case? X can revise this return up to. So what is the last date he can revise? Okay, new student raise Harish. Yes, Mr. Harish.
Option A, sir.
Option A, correct. It's a simple question because assessment has not been done. So we can submit revised return as well as the related return. Both date has been same. That is 31st December 2024. Correct answer is option number A. Now the last question, I guess. X Limited finds some mistake in the ITR filed by it on 15th October 24 for assessment year 24-25. X Limited wants to revise such return. Can he do so if no assessment has been done? And what is the last date? Hello? Hello? Good morning. So Swaroop wants to answer. Yes, Swaroop.
Option A.
Option. Exactly the same option for both cases. So correct answer is option number A. Exactly correct. Well done, students. So now we have discussed the MCQs and most of you have participated, and that's a really good sign that you all are sincere for your examination purpose. So our next class will be on 14th, and that is for computation of total income and tax. Why I am discussing about that class today only? Because that class will comprise all the provision, numerical provision. That's a chapter which will include salary topic, house property, PGBP, deduction, exemption, rate of taxes, surcharges, etc., etc., etc. So it's my request that please for that class, you have to revise all the provision, at least the basic provision. You might be thinking how you are able to revise all the provisions of deduction, TDS, all 5 heads of income. So at least revise the basic concept chapter, which comprises the tax rate structure. Like for 1.5 BAC provision, surcharge provision, what are the basic exemption, what are the slab rates, you have to read all those provision at least. And marginal relief also, you should understand what is the concept of marginal relief and go through the provision of some deductions and the basic concept of every chapter, like salary basic knowledge, house property revise, basic question, basic concept, capital gains, PGBPs, utmost important. Two main chapter you should revise at least, that is a PGBP and salary. Because in those provisions, these having the major impact on the question what we are going to solve. So if you are not able to understand or you are not revising the rates of taxes, surcharge provision, PGBP and salary, these 4 things you have to revise. Then you might not be able to gain what we are trying to understand in that class only. So for that class, you have to revise these section. Any other query you want to ask? Because then I will move forward for that chapter, computation of total income, because there is some concept what we need to discuss in today class only for 5 or 10 minutes of that chapter. But before that, if you have any query, you can ask me.
Sir,
regarding this chapter, if any query, please go ahead.
So I have one query, sir.
Okay, you don't have query. Let me then discuss regarding the next class, because that's a huge topic. The computation of total income will take a lot of time. So I want to utilize that time in today class. Okay, fine. For computation of total income and tax. Let me take Microsoft Whiteboard, that is. So computation of total income and tax. This is generally the compulsory question or first question in your examination, generally having a lot of weightage also. So regarding this question, first of all, you read the question properly. And in the end of the question, the examiner will ask either to compute income and tax as per 115 BAC. That means our default tax regime. Either they will ask to calculate you the total income and the tax as per 115 BAC, right? Or they will ask, this is very important to start a question, before starting the question, compute income and tax as per optional tax regime. That means shifting opt out of section 115 BAC, optional tax regime. Or third case, compute the income tax most beneficial to the assessee. So out of these three kinds of situation, they could ask either the computation of total income tax as per section 115 BAC or compute income or tax as per optional tax regime, or compute the income and tax most beneficial to the assessee. So how we can find out these three things and how we need to calculate as per the question required from us. So if they ask section 115 BAC, then we will calculate the total income and tax as per section 115 BAC provisions. So if they only ask to calculate the income and tax as per section 115 BAC, then this is the answer what we will have after applying all the taxes provision, etc., etc. Suppose they might ask you to compute income and tax as per optional tax regime, A and B. Then we can find out the income as per normal provision of that. Normal provision, or we could say it optional tax regime. And tax. Now one more computation will impact you. If total income as per normal provision, if total income as per normal provision is exceeding 20 lakh rupees, then AMT provisions also applicable. What is AMT? How we need to calculate that? That will be discussed in the computation total income topic. I will discuss that. Then we have to calculate the AMT income and tax also. AMT income will be called ATI and the tax according to it. Why we need to calculate the AMT? If question says that you have to calculate income and tax as per optional tax regime, optional tax regime, then we need not to apply point number 1. We just need to calculate income and tax as per normal provision, and we have to apply AMT concept if total income exceeding 20 lakh rupees in case of individual HUF, etc. If it's not exceeding 20 lakh, then A will be our answer. For point number 2, our answer will be A, because if they are asking only apply optional tax regime, then whatever will be the income and tax as per the A point, that will be our answer. But if the total income exceeding 20 lakh rupees, then we have to apply the AMT provision. Then as per normal provision to calculate the tax, that will be higher out of these two. Income as per notional provision and tax, and AMT, ATI and tax. Whichever is higher will be your tax liability if they ask you to calculate tax as per point number 2, only point number 2. And if total income exceeding 20 lakh, then we have to calculate tax as per point number A or tax as per point number B, and the higher will be our answer. In that case, there is a concept of AMT credit also that will be discussed in next class. But suppose now they are asking, generally they are asking this. Now in all questions what I have gone through, generally the examiner is asking point number 3, that is calculate the tax and income that is most beneficial to the assessee. Now if this point has been asked, then we have to do all the maths. We have to calculate the total income as per 15 BAC and tax. We have to calculate income and tax as per normal provision of the case. We have to calculate this for point number 3. We have to calculate this. And if total income exceeding 20 lakh, then we have to calculate AMT tax also. So if the question number 3 has been asked, most beneficial, then first of all, we have to calculate income as per section 115 BAC and tax. Suppose this tax name is tax 1. Then we have to calculate this. Suppose its name is tax 2. And if TI exceeding 20 lakh rupees, then we have to calculate tax 3. If it is not exceeding 20 lakh, then only 1 and 2 will be there, and lower will be your tax liability. Lower will be your tax liability if there is no AMT applicable. Then 1 and 2 lower will be your tax liability and your answer. But if AMT is applicable, then first of all, we have to find out higher of these two. And this higher will be compared to section 115 BAC tax. That means it needs to be compared with the 115 BAC tax, and whichever is now lower will be your answer. And students, the all RTP question, MTP questions, series 1, series 2, I have gone through them. I have solved all of those compulsory question. It asks you always point number 3 to check it out that you know the complete provision to calculate tax or not. So you need to calculate section 115 BAC income and tax. Then you have to apply point number A, that means optional tax scheme, normal provision tax and income. And in most of the cases, AMT is applicable because TI has been given more than 20 lakh rupees. So you have to calculate the AMT, ATI, adjusted total income and tax upon it. Then you have to compare first 2 and 3 tax higher, and higher will be compared to tax number 1, and the lower will be your answer. So this is the whole mathematics you have to done in the descriptive question, which is compulsory generally in the examination. That might have the weightage of 8 marks, I guess. So it's of course a complicated thing because all the provisions will be there and you have to solve it multiple times. 3 taxes need to be solved. And suppose if in this situation marginal relief concept is also there, then you have to apply that also. So we will discuss that. Do not worry. If you know the provision, if you practice that, you will be able to solve these kind of question also. So maybe you might be thinking right now, it will be a huge solution. That will be very complicated. Let me tell you, AMT solution is very simple. And if you are able to calculate this correctly, 15 BAC. Then from this to this, it's not that difficult. You have to just apply certain deduction extra, which is applicable in normal case, which is not applicable in default tax regime. So you have to plus minus 2 or 3 points to find out the total income as per point number A. Then you have to find out the tax, and AMT is really simple. AMT is not complicated. If you are able to solve this income correctly, then calculation of AMT income and tax is really, really easy. The basic thing is you have to understand how to find out the tax. First of all, you have to find out tax as per this concept, then apply normal provision and then AMT. You cannot directly calculate AMT. That is practically not possible. First of all, 15 BAC, then normal, and then on behalf of that normal, we have to calculate the AMT income, etc. So I will solve all RTP question, MTP question, series 1, series 2 in our next class with our MCQs also. So just revise those provision I have asked you. Please revise the tax rate, basic chapter 1 and salary and PGBP provision. Just revise it. So you will gain maximum when we will take the class on 14th of June. That will be the last class. So if there is anything, you can ask me. A question है हमारे पास. Sir, in MCQ number 11, it is said that the last date of filing is 31st of December. Assessment was completed 10 and now the 9th is implemented. But in question also, the assessee was informed 24 December. Who was asking this? Malaya Bag. The date as per the provision is when the officer has been passed the order. Before that date, it is communicated to the assessee later. It does not make the difference. As per the provision of the act, we need to take the date before the order has been passed. Whether it's served to the assessee later, that date is irrelevant for the purpose, because as per law, it is not allowed to us. Regular assessment and self-assessment is not in your syllabus, Fazi. That's why we cannot discuss it over here. Self-assessment means that whatever you think, self-assessment, we are discussing self-assessment. Calculate income as per your calculation, calculate tax as per your provision, and then if there is any variation, then department will find it out and department will do the assessment. There are technically 3 assessment, that is section 1's regular assessment, section 143.3, I guess, that is applicable. Then section 144, that is best judgment assessment, and then section 147, that is income escaping assessment. But that is not in your syllabus. That's why we are not discussing those assessment procedure. That will be in final level. So when you will be in final, you will be able to understand the whole concept of assessment also. So I guess all queries has been taken. So there is no more query. Ashok sir, can we close the class? Yes, yes, over. Thank you. Thank you.